guys, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, where I take a concept or strategy and bring it to you so that you can enhance your fitness or adapted physical education programs for the autism and neurodivergent population of any age or ability level. And before I get started, please definitely subscribe, throw something in the comments below if this has been helpful for you, if previous videos have been helpful for you, and definitely if you have a question about a concept or a strategy that you want me to cover in a future video, I would love to know. We also now do a Wednesday night Instagram live where you can ask your questions and have them answered in a way where it is pertinent to your practice. We're going to be talking about structure. Structure is going to have an implication in everything that we do in our autism fitness programming, whether we're talking about the program design, implementing the exercises themselves, positive behavior support, coaching and cueing, communication. All of these things are going to be guided by structure in some way or form. Now, from a programming perspective, it's pretty easy to understand why structure holds an important place, but I want to revisit that with fitness programming. We want to be consistent and use the fundamental exercises, that squat, push, pull, hinge, and carry. These are going to be our fundamentals, and sure, there are different variations of all these movement patterns. For example, with a pull, we can do a vertical pull as in a pull down. We can do a horizontal pull like a band or a cable row. There are different movement vectors, there are different positions, there are different angles, and these are all good. However, good is a relative term because the more variety we introduce, particularly in the beginning for our neurodivergent athletes, the less we're going to have meaningful and effective fitness programming, because variety is oftentimes going to be the enemy of progress. I don't mean that to sound harsh or adversarial, but the issue is that, number one, we want consistency and continuity in our programming because many of our athletes are going to require a modified variation of that exercise. If they need a modified variation of that exercise, then they need extra support to perform that squat or that band or cable row or that band pull down or that push-up or the insert foundational exercise here. Perform it to the point where they're independent, what we refer to in autism fitness programming as standard. If the athlete cannot yet perform that exercise to standard and they need a modification via either physical guidance or a mirror prompt or a decrease in the range of motion, this is fine, but it's something that we want to be considerate of because that athlete is likely going to need, not even likely, but definitely going to need more practice, so more access to that particular exercise. What does that mean with relation to structure? Well, if that athlete needs more practice with that particular exercise, let's say a squat, for example, and we do it for 2 or 3 sessions, and then we say, well, it's been 3 sessions, we need to change it, altering the structure and saying, well, let's go to a lunge. I have plenty of athletes whom I've worked with for months or years. I'm not introducing the lunge yet because we don't yet have bilateral strength and stability in the squat. It's unlikely that the lunge is going to produce any better training effect, particularly because if an athlete is having that strength and motor planning deficit with the simpler or the more stable variation of that exercise, there is very low chance that they are going to be capable of executing that lunge step or any other squat variation with any appreciable capability. Then we're just changing it around to change it around. So that number one aspect of structure is continuity in the training program. Here's the reality in strength training. Particularly when we're talking about hypertrophy, that simply means the development of lean mass musculature, and also enhancing some of those foundational movement patterns. The reality is, when we focus on a few fundamental or foundational exercises, we are going to get more out of that programming. The whole premise of changing things up on a regular basis to create some type of muscle confusion, that is not actually a valid methodology for producing the type of systemic and localized change that we want for our athletes, particularly, certainly in my case, if I'm working with my athlete once or twice a week, I really have to adhere to that structure as well, because it's been an entire 7 days since they've done their last program, and now I change it up. Even though it seems like we're doing all these things, we're doing all of them, but we're not doing any of them particularly well, and the athlete does not have enough volume, sets and repetitions to get good, meaning independently performing that exercise with enough load, meaning resistance or volume, that they are going to develop appreciable strength and lean mass, because those are the things that training effect, again, are going to generalize or transfer into those activities of daily living. Really important. The second way that we're going to use structure is from an adaptive perspective. This is in our PAC profile. We have physical, adaptive, and cognitive. Adaptive simply means the athlete's level of motivation and engagement. One of the big strategies that we use, big meaning highly effective and used often, is choice. With choice, we are giving the athlete the option to do, let's say, the push-up or the overhead press first. Both upper body pushing exercises, again, one more horizontal and one more vertical, right? We are not opening up the structure to randomized opportunities to do just anything. What do I mean by that? If you ask someone, what do you want to do today? In the gym, it's an overwhelming question because there are so many different options to choose from. And we also want to take into consideration that we have a plan, or at least should have a plan, with the exercise program that we're going to give our athlete today. Do we have to modify that or change it around sometimes? Absolutely. Sometimes on a session by session basis, but we have this basic structure for what we want to utilize with respect to that program. But if an athlete comes in every session, we say, oh, what do you want to do? Number one, it can be confusing for the athlete. And number two, it doesn't adhere to the structure that we want to maintain in that program. By giving choice, we want to narrow it down to a field of 2, at most 3. And in my own experience with my athletes, sometimes 3 choices can be overwhelming as well. So I'd say that the best practice is to stay with 2 different choices per section or phase of that session. For example, when we start our session and we're doing power, do you want to do push throws first, or do you want to do overhead throws first? It doesn't really matter from a physical standpoint which one the athlete decides to do first, but that structure, so we have a contingency here. When you choose the overhead throw, then you're going to do it first. There's also that nice implication that these are the options available and this is what we're going to do, instead of keeping it open-ended. The other component of that that's really important is it reinforces to the athlete that these are the choices, and we're not going much off script. Now, every once in a while, we have to deviate from what we would normally do because the athlete is highly dysregulated or they're having a really off day. So we may decide to add in something that is going to have the athlete a lot more focused and engaged. Maybe it has a higher level of reinforcement for that particular athlete. So we're going to start off doing something that is going to get them into the session a lot easier and more effectively. Fine, but that being an outlier situation, what we want to do is maintain for the athlete that this is what we're going to be doing, without, number one, saying have to, but also, again, implying that we do have a plan for them. And the idea is not a free-for-all. It's not a jungle gym. It's not open-ended playtime, which is fine. We're talking about the context of a strength and fitness session that is delivering a measurable result. Not that regular play doesn't, but we are intent on producing a training effect, and in order to do that, we have to have certain constraints in place. Now, finally, from a cognitive perspective, how do we use structure? I'm going to use that word again, consistency, this time with relation to language. We are always calling the same exercise by its name and not switching it around, and this is something that I've seen. It is what we could refer to as a coaching hiccup. For example, we have an athlete who is doing push throws or about to do push throws, and we say, Wilson, go grab the medicine ball. We're going to do push throws. And then you say, okay, now set up for push passes. Okay, remember, you're going to do chest throws now. I've just called the same exercise 3 different things, and particularly for a new athlete or an athlete who is just starting out their fitness program, or an athlete who gets easily distracted and confused. Now they're dealing with the fact that you've just called this exercise that they're about to do 3 different things. Do they memorize 3 different names for the same activity? It behooves us to maintain the same name for the same exercise. I do not have a copyright on squat or push-up or push-throw or any of the exercises that we use in autism fitness programming. This is not about staking our flag in the ground on the nomenclature of each exercise. This is all about the athlete so that we can develop a working language base that has a meaningful nature or meaningful quality for that athlete, so that we're not calling a band row a band pull and then we're calling it a back pull. We stay with one name. This is also important outside of the confines of the fitness session when we are talking with other professional providers, or we're talking with family members, using the same name for the exercise and using the same name for different programming variables as well. Having that consistency in language is going to onboard our athlete a lot easier when they're being introduced to all these different new exercises and equipment, and it's also going to maintain the athlete's focus, because they don't have to worry about a different exercise being called a different thing every single time. To reiterate, how do we use structure? From a physical perspective, we use it in our programming with exercise selection and choosing only those exercises that are going to be foundational in developing that lean muscle mass and strength. These are our big compound movements, our squats, our pushes, our presses, our pulls, and not necessarily deviating or using variety until it makes sense. If an athlete has exhausted the benefit of any exercise, and by the way, that takes years and years and years. Even after decades of training, I still go back to push-ups and presses and pulls. It's all foundationally sound. These are the things that we almost always want to keep in programming until an athlete is reaching the point where they're not getting much out of that exercise anymore. And for most of our neurodivergent athletes, that is a ways away. Secondly, from an adaptive standpoint, using choice as a continuum in their program, meaning we always offer it, but we offer it within reason. We want the structure of choice to be 2, at most 3 different exercises for that athlete. And then finally, with respect to cognitive, right? Again, cognitive gives us our coaching and our communication, maintaining the same name of the same exercise so that we have structure around the language that we are using with our athletes. So those are 3 ways in 3 different areas of skill and coaching that structure becomes an absolute necessity in our programming. There are plenty more. If you can think of some questions around structure that you'd like me to answer, leave them in the comments below. I am more than happy to answer them. And if you have a topic you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Tuesday Training, I would love to know it. Leave it in the comments down there. I'd also love to know if this has been helpful for you. If you are ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro, go to autismfitness.com. You can learn all about our Pro, Expert, and Master level certifications, plus our site certification for schools and organizations that want to have a program that they can truly be proud of that has a direct carryover to the physical skills and quality of life for their students or clients or members. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you very much for watching.